Dr. Matt Stillman of Trinity Christian Fellowship he agreed to do the invocation, and we don't see him here, and that is the beginning of our meeting, so I shall do the invocation. Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for all the many blessings that you give us. Thank you for living in this country where we are free. Thank you for our military. Thank you for protecting us. Thank you for all of our village employees who do their very best to make our village very special. Bless this meeting, and please let us all make the best decisions for our community. In your name we pray. Amen. Let us stand for the, oh my gosh, there's Matt Stillman. How'd I do? How did I do? Do you want to add something to that?
I was standing in the back, and let me say amen. I apologize. I walked in 30 seconds late, and you're very punctual.
We run a tight ship. Please go ahead and say another one.
All right. Heavenly Father, thank you for the council. Thank you for their willingness to give of their time and of their energy and of their gifts and abilities. Father, we invite your presence to this meeting this afternoon. We ask for your spirit. We ask your blessing on our community and for those who lead it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Stillman. I'm sorry we didn't wait a minute longer.
That's okay. That's my fault. I apologize.
That's okay. We compared my prayer to the real prayer, and somehow we got to it. Okay. Our next item of business are reports, first from our manager.
I don't have anything to report today.
John Baldry?
I'd just like to report on the meeting I went to last Wednesday, I believe. It was the annual Citizen Patrol Volunteer Dinner and Awards. There was Master of Ceremonies was our police chief. Just some interesting facts and data that came out of that meeting. So for the citizen volunteers, the size of that force is about 41 volunteers from the community. Impressive that Miles Baldwin put in 1,324 hours last year. That's an amazing number of hours for a volunteer. And Chief Phipps said since the inception of this program, this volunteer program, 16,295 hours have been donated on behalf of the village, and at a savings of about $325,000 in non-public funds. So it's an impressive program, and hats off to the village, to the chief, and also the cadre of volunteers who support keeping our neighborhoods and communities safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cashin and I both went to the dinner the following night, which was the recognition and awards dinner for our police, and there are some very impressive awards that are given out at that dinner. Last week being National Public Safety Week, I think we had those events. So please don't ever doubt that you're in good hands with your police department and your fire department, and we thank them all very much. Claire, do you have anything? John Cashin? Ditto. I have one other thing that we need to discuss. We've had a number of absences by council members, so I asked Jeff to just do a little research on how we handle this. So what we have found is that when any member is not here and the other members are required to vote on whether or not the absence is excused before any other votes are taken. Now, unfortunately, if the absence is excused, his vote isn't counted. If the absence is not excused, then the missing member's vote will be counted in the affirmative. Does it sound like government speak? It is, it is. The bottom line is, I am going to suggest that we move that Clark's absence is not excused, and therefore, no one here tonight, there are 2 items that will require votes, well, really 3 or 4, and that his vote will always be counted in the affirmative. So can I have a motion to that effect?
I'll move the motion to that effect, Madam Mayor.
There you go.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Baldry and a second by Claire Bergeron, and the motion is that Clark Campbell's absence is not excused. Therefore, every vote that we record tonight, his vote will be counted in the affirmative. Is there any discussion? If not, let's vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that little piece of business is settled. Next, we have Mr. Carlton Cole. Where are you, Carlton? There he is. We have some very impressive awards to present, and I think I've said this probably every year that you come up and present these awards. People actually are saved through CPR. Now, 100 years ago when I did some training as an EMT, we didn't save anybody. I don't know what has happened, but in saving somebody, they actually have to go to the hospital and come out. You can't just save somebody, they go to hospital and they die.
That's correct.
So I am so impressed that we have these awards to give to our firemen who have saved lives.
And just to give you an idea of the percentages of that for the county, for Moore County, it's 12.6% of those calls that results in the patient being discharged from the hospital. And from a national standpoint, it's 10.8%. So we're above the nation, and it's a very humbling experience to be involved with the Life Save, and I'm very proud to be able to recognize staff for their involvement with that.
Thank you, Carlton.
I'm going to call up Captain Steve Cox to accept the awards on behalf of he's the company officer on behalf of his crew. So I'll read the certificate, then we'll announce the names, and then I'll give you the second one. This is a certificate of commendation and a life-saving ribbon from the fire department for the 23rd of May 2017. This is presented in recognition of the execution of your duties during incident 2016-80770 on November 9th, 2016. By assisting with emergency medical care, a patient was successfully revived through cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Your actions represent a high degree of technical proficiency, moral courage, and dedication to the village, department, and our citizens. This serves as an outstanding example to your fellow firefighters and significantly contributes to the integrity and honor of the Village of Pinehurst Fire Department. Thank you, Steve. So involved with the call, we have Captain Steve Cox, and he's accepted on behalf of his crew, which included firefighter Bonnie McDonald, Austin Majors, and Master Firefighter Ethan Owens. And the second call was incident 2017-6600 on January the 30th, 2017. It was the same crew minus one who was off that day. So we're recognizing Captain Cox, Firefighter Owens, and Firefighter McDonald once again.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carlton. I think a lot of people don't realize that you are the first responders. When there's a call, and you are the first ones there. So if there is CPR needed, you are often the ones who give it.
That's correct.
And we thank you.
And I'm very proud of the department and all the men and women that make up what we do. They're very proficient, professional in everything that they do, and they do great in delighting the customer for all the calls that we go on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlton, for leading a wonderful department. Okay, next we have our consent agenda, and all these items can be approved under one motion.
I move to approve all the items listed and considered routine on the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by John Cashin and a second by Claire Bergeron. Is there any discussion? If not, let's vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Please note that Mr. Campbell voted in the affirmative. Lauren, I don't really have to say that for every item, do I? Okay. Number 6, we're going to recess our meeting and go into a public hearing. We need a motion for that.
Move to recess the regular meeting and enter into a public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by John Baldry and a second by Claire Bergren to recess our meeting and enter into a public hearing. Any discussion? If not, I'll ask for your vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you. That's unanimous, Lauren. Ms. Natalie?
Yes, I am going to give the introduction to the public hearing today. The subject matter is the 2018 budget. There's a typo on there. I apologize for that. What we're going to do is first just give, for the benefit of the audience, an overview of what the village has done in order to prepare the 2018 budget. As council is well aware of this, in December they have a strategic planning retreat. In January, council approved their short-term and long-term goals on our balanced scorecard, basically identifying those levels of performance that we're trying to achieve as an organization. On May 9th, the village manager presented the budget to the council in its entirety, and at that time we put the budget on the village's website and made a copy available for public inspection here in Village Hall. On May 15th, we held a budget work session with the council. At that time, council did request staff to make some changes to some terminology as it related to sidewalks. Those changes were made, and those were reflected on the updated versions of the documents on the website as well. And then today we are holding our required public hearing, and I will get to it. So our strategic operating plan is really developed each and every year to make sure that we're achieving council's vision and the mission of the organization, which is to promote, enhance, and sustain the quality of life for Pinehurst residents, businesses, and visitors. The FY18 budget was prepared in accordance with the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Awards. This is the highest level of recognition internationally for budget presentations, and the village has been successful in achieving that award for several years now. There are 4 areas of focus in the 2018 budget, as you can see here: guiding appropriate growth and redevelopment, and providing pedestrian connectivity, maintaining high-quality streets, and providing recreation programs, activities, and events. Included in the budget are 12 initiative action plans at a cost of $1.3 million. And those initiative action plans are those things that the village is going to do in order to achieve the goals and objectives that the council has set. Some significant items about the budget that I want to point out: it's a $19.1 million budget. It's 0.5% higher than the current budget that's amended. This budget does not propose any change to the current tax rate of 29.5 cents. And it also includes the use of some of our savings or fund balance to balance the budget. There is every year a budget to actual variance, and that budget to actual variance is based on the fact that revenues typically come in higher than we budget and expenditures typically come in lower than what we budget. And that's because by state law we're required to remain below budgeted expenditures. So when it's all said and done, we're expecting to use about $300,000 of our savings with this budget. And we expect our ending fund balance will remain extremely healthy at 48% of our expenditures. This budget does also include the addition of 2.5 full-time equivalents. 2 of those positions are currently existing, and they're being proposed to move, increase in hours, one from 20 to 30 hours, one from part-time to full-time. And then we have 2 new positions, or 2 new areas here. The first is in buildings and grounds, a ground specialist, which is a new full-time equivalent. And then the seasonal employees are part-time equivalents that equate to 0.7 FTEs. The significant capital items in the 2018 budget include $343,000 for design of a community center. You may recall that I just said we're planning to use about $300,000 of fund balance. This is primarily what that's being used for. We also have a detailed capital replacement plan for our vehicles and equipment, making sure that our employees have the tools and resources they need to do their job. We have about $900,000 in the budget for that. We also have $1.2 million in the budget for other capital expenditures that are listed there. And you'll see $430,000 for pedestrian connectivity. At the council work session, council had a long discussion about neighborhood sidewalks and elected to change this terminology to pedestrian connectivity, as they are going to retain the funds in the budget and then make some determinations later on about what is the best use for those funds. We also have money in there for storm drainage projects, some streetscape improvements, and paving the parking lot at Cannon Park, which is currently dirt and sand right now. Overall, this is what the budget revenues and expenditures look like as a percentage of the budget. There's nothing really different here from previous years. As you can see, the majority of our revenues come from property taxes and intergovernmental revenues, which is composed primarily of sales taxes and some other taxes as well. Our budgeted expenditures, you can see here, salaries and wages only are 33% and operating is 51%. We try to maintain our capital expenditures around the 10, 11, 12% mark, and we've been able to do that with this budget. With that said, we'll open it up for public comment, but prior to that, I would like to share some information. We did post this topic on Open Village Hall to get public feedback from the residents. For those of who may not be able to attend here, we received 30 comments, and I provided council with that information last night. The comments varied from supportive sidewalks to not supporting sidewalks, from supporting the community center to not supporting the community center. It was a mixed bag. We also got several comments that complimented the village on the nice job for the document that was prepared. And that's it.
Okay, any last-minute questions from council members before I start the public hearing? Okay, we only have one person signed up for the public hearing. If anyone else would like to comment on our 2018 strategic budget, please just come up to the front and raise your hand. Judy, I'll put you down. Anyone else? Okay, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Tom Chandler? John Chandler. Okay. Pardon? Taylor, I'm sorry. John Taylor doesn't have a mic. Anyone else? Okay. The first one signed up is John Strickland.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate very much the hard work that goes into putting a budget together every year, and the staff, again, along with yourselves, have certainly put together a very comprehensive document. The comments I'd like to make tonight are really referencing the community center, which is developing in your plans, obviously, from the budget that we have and discussions that have been here at the meetings in the last several months. A couple of points. Early on in some of the thoughts about a community center and how that would be named, whether it's a recreation center or a community center, there were some thoughts, although I haven't heard them recently and I've raised them tonight, about the possibility of combining with either Aberdeen or Southern Pines or all three of the towns getting together to construct a more extensive community recreation center than any one of the towns could do on their own. And I'm encouraging you to continue to think about that concept even as we go about making plans evidently for a particular project here in Pinehurst. In addition to that, over the years, there had been some thought about contacting some private agencies, particularly the YMCA, to see if in their regional or national or state programs there might be a way that they would have an interest in coming to Southmore County, again, in which case the cost, the long-term planning, long-term staffing would not be the burden of any one town, but perhaps the three towns and the YMCA itself. So as you go about thinking and planning for a community center or a recreation center here, I would urge you to, on the one hand, consider partnering with the other towns, if that's possible, and or partnering with an entity like the YMCA or the Boys and Girls Clubs, which I think would do a lot to disperse cost and management over time, which would be to the taxpayers' advantage here in Pinehurst. Second thought is we can build buildings, but over time there's an increasing cost to any municipality to maintain them, to staff them, to provide programs. So as you think about what a community center would be here and what its effect on the community would be, I think we need to continue to look at what's the effect on the long-term budget. What are the pressures that will come along for maintenance, for staffing, for programming into the future? It's not just building something today, it's what it's going to cost and the advantages of that down the line as well. The final and third point is this. The name Cultural Center has again come into public discussion, and I think there's some confusion there as to whether the Cultural Center is what you're thinking about for this community or recreation center, or is that a different entity? And at some point I would ask that that be defined a little more clearly to the public. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. I think it would serve a purpose if I gave you a little bit of explanation about each one of your comments, because they're very valid questions. Number one, the part about the YMCA, I did kind of drive that with Southern Pines and Aberdeen. The YMCA comes with no money. They just give you your name, their name, and you have to be an offshoot of another YMCA. So the closest one to us is Sanford. They don't have a pool. The one thing that we all agree that we wanted was an indoor pool. So we spoke with the people at First Health about, wow, isn't it fun to have an indoor pool? And they said, it is the biggest liability on earth, and it is the most difficult thing to run and manage. So perhaps that information did not get out to the public, but we have pretty much given up. Of the 3 towns, we have more money than anyone else. And so partnering with them, although it seems like it's good, but I think the resources would be ours. Second, as far as the maintenance of a community center, recreation center, you know we built in a 5-year capital budget, and we certainly have built in the maintenance, the staffing, the additional programming. We have built all that in to our 5-year budget. Next year, we'll do another 5 years, and we'll build it all in again, so that will be for 6 years. And finally, the Cultural Center, I think Claire spoke to this last meeting. We're not really going to call this a cultural center, because it really isn't.
I was making the distinction between
Yes.
a community center versus a cultural arts facility, so I see them
2
as
different types
totally
of facilities.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Very different types, yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
certainly understand, agree that, and I think there's some confusion maybe cleared up now that if you're talking also about a cultural center, that's a completely different building and purpose than what we're talking
different.
about for the community
It
center.
really is.
But it
Completely
is,
different.
it is also on the,
Absolutely. It's something
on
that
the-
people really would like to see. Okay.
I would just remind everybody in the sense of the cultural center that we did a study a couple of years ago, which some of the council's aware of, showing that the number of venues we have in the area meet most of the needs we have. So again, any cultural center idea, while a good one in itself, might be again something that the towns or others could share and not just be a burden on Pinehurst.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And John, 2 points, sir. First, I talked about the Cultural Center at the last meeting, and my comments and thoughts came from a discussion I had with Audrey Moriarty, and that was looking at the village at the village center itself, where we have the library, we have the archive, we have Village Chapel. So it's a wonderful center for our area for our village. And so what Audrey was talking about was indeed a cultural center of some type, completely separate from a community center, recreation center, which would be planned for youth or for a multiplicity of activities. So I hope I didn't cause some confusion there, but that was the genesis for my bringing up the cultural center from a discussion I had with the foundation and also with Audrey. I have a question for you. From your perspective and your time, there are two locations where it's been proposed for a community center. Tell me what your thoughts are on the two locations, because you were here and part of that, and so I know there was a birdie done on it, I believe, but you were on the council at the time. Do you have an opinion on that, sir?
Not really. I tend to think topographically the Cannon Park is easier than over here in Rassy Wicker Park, from what I've understood in talking to Jeff and others over time, but I wouldn't, I don't have a particular plan for that. Again, I would emphasize the planning with the other towns, but rather than going on our own.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment related before you get away, John.
Sure.
Is when we're talking about, because we've had some discussions as known
Yeah.
about cultural centers and such to that. But right now with the community college completely renovating Owens Auditorium, that I think, and it's community-wide, not just us, because it would be, and I'd much rather see it in a situation like at the college, which all the three towns just help and support that and work through having the three communities together instead of Southern Pines building one, Aberdeen, or us building one.
Right.
I think in the grand scheme of things, that fits the Southern Moore County a lot better than trying to do one individually by any.
You mean with respect to a cultural center? Is that what you're addressing, John, or the
Well, I'm addressing what's happening at the community college.
at the college? Yeah. With
Watch and see what all
Yeah.
that comes out to be before
Yep.
anybody would jump to try and create something additional that might be good, bad, or indifferent from there.
maximize resources wherever they are. Absolutely right.
Okay, thank you. Judy Davis?
I want to talk about the allocation that's now $430,000 for pedestrian connectivity. At the last meeting, one of the suggestions was that that money is likely to be reduced because of the SB 126 and the House Bill 522 impact. So you might be talking about a net 75 grand from my understanding of the numbers there. I think that whatever the money is, that the discussion at the last meeting was that some of that money might go towards the community center. And I would just advocate that if money was set aside for infrastructure, that it should go towards infrastructure and not go off on a different tangent. So that would be the request I would have of the council, is that you keep it in kind in terms of its utilization in the future.
For pedestrian facilities, you mean?
Or infrastructure. I mean, I think if you...
The community center is a big piece of infrastructure, or...
Well, I think
Capital?
sidewalks and roads and things like that go together a lot more than sidewalks and community center. So to me, I would say there's a lot of
Roads, perhaps?
roads resurfacing and water management systems that could really benefit from that additional utilization of those funds if it's possible. And then on the community center itself, I would say that probably is something that might need to be revetted in terms of the pursuit of it, the placement of it, and the community interest in supporting it. I think that even though it's been in the plan forever, I don't know that it's front and center in everybody's minds that, oh yeah, we're going to have a community center. It'll either be at Cannon Park, it'll be over here at Rassy Wicker. So I just think I would surface that and get some more feedback from the public on that, would be my suggestion.
Okay, thank you, Judy. John Taylor?
Thank you, and the good news is that between John and Judy, they covered a number of my points, so we will be out of here sooner. I would echo John, having been personally responsible for putting together a budget of almost exactly this size that ran to 18 pages in its full detail. I think it's a nice job, and I think it's, for those who want to take the time to dig into it, they're able to do so on the website. It's
Absolutely.
maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but I did. My question is, you have to do the study before you can decide whether you want to build the thing. But 300, almost 2% of the budget this next year is going toward the plan. Is it plausible to think that you're not going to?
You're talking about the
community center.
architectural design?
Yeah, I mean, you can't necessarily vote first without a study, but you're spending a lot of money on the study.
I think it's not a study. It's actually design.
It's design.
The need and the desire for the community center has been very well vetted. Would you concur, Natalie?
Yes.
It's been on our docket for 10 years. And if you've noticed, our community is getting much, much younger. We all know that everything we do competes for funds. Once we do something, we don't do another thing. But this is a major improvement that has been on our radar for, as I say, 10 years.
I understand, and I'm not against it, per se.
Yeah, the
I mean,
2% isn't studying it, it's for actual architectural design.
That's what I mean, that's a lot of money to spend if you decide not to do it. So
Well,
effectively, you've pretty much decided you're going to do this.
I
You've
think we
Built
have.
it into budgets.
I think we have. I mean, I respect Judy's comment that we revisit it. We have visited it and revisited it and revisited it again and put it off and put it off. And we have finally saved enough money to be able to fund it with only about 1/5 of it being debt. So I don't know if anyone on council is having second thoughts about a community center. I know I'm not. We are committed to this, and it has been thoroughly vetted.
Will it require separate formal, I would assume the bonding would, but
Would it require a separate what?
separate action to actually decide to stick a shovel in the ground?
A separate access?
Action, a vote.
Action.
Have
No,
to separately approve it.
no, I don't.
Well, there'll be contracts associated with, so there will be votes taken.
But but that would be the awarding of contracts for a decision that has been taken to build a building, subject to design
Yes.
considerations and whatever.
By approving this budget tonight, we are
Effectively approving.
approving building this building.
That was my question. Thanks very much.
I can
Maybe
add-
more technically, the actual construction funds will be in next
Oh,
year's
yes.
budget. but-
We're approving the architectural design.
To answer your question a little bit more, there will be a couple more actions by council. This budget funds the design, as you've indicated. And then we will also, council will need to adopt a capital project fund, so that will be a separate action. And then, as part of that capital project fund, we are proposing to finance $1 million of the project in next fiscal year, so that would also require some additional council action.
So let me say if...
It'll be next year, next fiscal year.
Mr. Taylor, let me see if I can say this correctly, and please correct me if I'm... I think what we have is we have a concept that we need to move forward on. And when we move forward, we're getting some additional funding in here to get our concept underway in next year's budget, would we actually start doing the building. So the concept followed by a plan, with additional funds. those are the steps that would lead up to this. Am I correct, Madam Mayor, in
I think
in
that's
saying
what
that?
Natalie said, essentially.
My-
We're doing the architectural design this year.
And you have built those projected, quote-unquote, actual costs as best you can estimate them into your 5-year projection?
Absolutely. Into our capital budget.
Correct. So the 5-year financial forecast that's included in the document includes projected revenues from expanded programs. It includes additional operating costs for the building, electricity, taxes, insurance, supplies, cleaning, landscaping, all those types of costs. It also includes additional staffing that would result, as well as the debt service as a result. All of that's included in the forecast.
I assume Cannon Park, which I think would be the logical place for it, at least more so than Rassy Wicker Park. There could be other places that are as good or better, but of those two, I think Cannon Park would be better. Are there any zoning issues there? Will there have to be, I mean, this is kind of a different kind of building that you're building, but might not be
It's a
covered by normal
government
zoning.
building on land that we own. I think if there are any zoning issues, we can take care of them.
But you might have to approve individual things. I mean, I have no doubt that you will, but
Well, this is, again, this is something that our community has wanted for probably, I don't know, Mark Wagner's not here tonight, probably 15 years. And
I've been here
now
that long.
is
And I
the
know it's been
time.
talked about continuously over
Exactly.
time.
In fact, I think one citizen mentioned that sometimes you talk about things so much here in Pinehurst, they just get moldy. And this moldy item has just moved forward one step, which is we're going to have an architectural design. And I think we will all be very proud when we present our, in following years, present our community center for our young people, for our older people. It'll be a center that can be used by everyone. And I think we'll all be very proud. So,
Hope so.
okay.
Before you run off, I want to make, about Rassy Wicker behind you, that the one thing that we need to take into consideration before we put it at Cannon Park or here, but we've got the Arboretum this facility, the recreation facility, and the police department, all right here. We don't have appropriate parking for all of those when we have events. So I've looked at it more from the standpoint that we use it to help increase our parking from the fire station down to Arboretum by that. So before we jump, we need to look at both sides. But we also, if you come out here sometimes and we've got a lot of things going on, we don't have enough parking for things around our facility as it is.
No, I think peak parking is a problem for pretty much anything. When you have many more people who want to be at a place all at one time than it's designed for, as the concourse or what have you, the U.S. Open, you got to make do some way. So thank you all very much.
Mr. Taylor, our planning director does tell me that the recreation center is permitted in either of those zoning jurisdictions.
Thank you, Kevin. We don't have to do anything crazy. Okay. Is there any other comments on our budget? Okay, then I need a motion to adjourn that public hearing and re-enter our meeting.
I move to adjourn the public hearing and re-enter the regular meeting.
Second.
We have a motion by John Cashin and a second by John Baldry. Is there any discussion? If not, let's vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We will be taking a vote on our strategic operation plan at our next meeting on June
13th.
13th. Okay. All right. Next is number 9.
Good evening, Mayor, members of Village Council. As always, it's a pleasure to speak to you this evening. Just kind of want to recap sort of what got us to this point with regard to the rezoning request on behalf of Community Presbyterian Church. Community Presbyterian Church did request the rezoning of approximately 4.25 acres. The property is currently zoned R10 residential and R20 residential, and they requested that the property be rezoned to R10 residential conditional district. This rezoning will allow for the construction of new parking, the paving and expansion of existing parking, new driveways and drop-off areas, 3 new covered entrances, new walkways, landscape improvements, and playground enhancements. On April 6, 2017, the Planning and Zoning Board did conduct a duly advertised public hearing on the request, and following that request, did vote unanimously to recommend to the Village Council that the rezoning be approved with 8 conditions. Probably most notable among those conditions was a recommendation by the P&Z Board that no additional parking be allowed in the right-of-way and that the existing parking be removed by the church from the right-of-way. The Village Council, at its April 25, 2017 meeting, also conducted a duly advertised public hearing, and following that public hearing, asked staff to schedule further discussions on the request at a future council work session. Council, at its May 9th, 2017 work session, did discuss the matter, and the applicants at that time presented modifications to the general concept plan that would remove all of the parking from the right-of-way, expand and enhance the proposed on-site parking, and not establish any additional parking in the right-of-way, essentially addressing the one condition recommended, or one of the conditions recommended by the Planning and Zoning Board. Council seemed to be receptive to this approach and requested that the applicant finalize a revised general concept plan, which you have in your meeting package tonight, and also directed staff to revise the rezoning ordinance that would contain appropriate conditions which supported this alternative parking option that was presented by the applicant. With regards to the new parking plan, the village would remove the parking in the right-of-way and prepare those areas for landscaping, and then the church would be responsible for installing the landscaping. The removal of the parking would be phased and coincide with the construction of new parking areas by the church. Specifically, in Ordinance 17-05, Condition Number 8 outlines the phasing for the construction and removal of the right-of-way parking. Specifically, this phasing is as follows. With the completion of Parking Lot A, it will require the removal of the spaces along Everett Road across from the existing sand lot. This is approximately 10 spaces. With the completion of Parking Lot E, the spaces that are located near and along the corner of Everett and Kelly Road would be removed. Those are approximately 6 spaces. With the completion of Parking Lot F, The spaces located along the southernmost portion of Kelly Road would be removed. That's approximately 12 spaces. With the completion of parking lot G, the spaces that are in the vicinity of the crosswalk on Kelly Road would be removed, and that's approximately 11 spaces. And then finally, with the completion of parking lot H, the northernmost parking spaces along Kelly Road would be removed, and that's approximately 7 spaces. In total, 128 spaces will be provided on-site by the church. There will be no parking further in the right-of-way, and this 120 spaces does meet the requirements of the PDO, which essentially sets forth that you must have 1 space for each seats in the sanctuary. In addition, condition number 1 of the rezoning ordinance also indicates that the allowable impervious coverage would be able to be 56%. I should note again, the general concept plan does show improvements to an existing playground and a potential new playground behind the Kelly Road house. This playground area was actually shown behind 35 Kelly Road on the initial general concept plan that was presented with the rezoning application before the Planning and Zoning Board. And as part of the potential to accommodate additional parking by 35 Kelly Road was left off of a previous version. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about the general concept plan or about Ordinance 17-05.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin? I have one. Oh, I'm sorry, John. I have one. I seem to remember on May 9th, we allowed the impervious to go up to 60%. So it was 56 now?
56 is the calculation based on what the applicants have provided to us. It's actually slightly lower than that. It's rounded up to 56
Okay,
just to
that's
accommodate
fine.
for some
That's
minor
fine. I remember
adjustments.
we discussed
and that sort of thing.
60. John?
Just to be sure I'm clear, the parking areas that are in the right-of-way, there'll be a phased approach which will phase, as the other parking lots are completed, then those parking spaces along the right-of-ways, which you pointed out, would be removed, and there would be some, I guess, looks like vegetation or trees or bushes, shrubs, and to go in there to prevent someone coming in to park.
That's correct. Specifically in Ordinance 17-05, number 9, that condition, it indicates that the removal of the parking in the right-of-way will be the responsibility of the village. The village will prepare the former parking areas with topsoil or other suitable material for planting and landscaping, and then the church would be responsible for the installation of planting and landscaping, which would be approved by the village in conjunction with the village.
And during the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, the conditions that were attached to this, there was only one condition which the applicant did not agree to. Does this put them now in compliance with the considerations and the thought on the planning board as to what needs to be done? Are they in full compliance now?
Somewhat very similar in that the Planning and Zoning Board put all of the responsibility on the church with regard to removing the parking and the landscaping, and the general compromise that was discussed and is included in the current condition is more of a cooperative effort with the village. It is our right-of-way. We would remove it and prepare it, and then they would be responsible from then on.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Bruce? I mean, Kevin, you two look so much alike. No, I'm kidding. I think we, because Bruce did get a haircut, so, I mean, I know.
And Madam Mayor, there were no attendees who signed up to speak.
This is not a public hearing. This
Okay.
is simply, however, we normally allow brief, relevant comments by members, by attendees, if you have any. If there's anyone who wants to give a brief, relevant comment, if Mr. Bogle or if Pastor Stone wants to speak for a moment, we certainly can allow that, or we can just go right to our vote. Anyone care to offer a brief, relevant comment? Mr. Hoffman. Is that the same document that you gave us on May 9th?
No, it is not.
Brief and relevant.
Exactly.
Brief.
Ordinance number 1705 makes a sincere effort to solve the many parking problems
Yes.
presented by the Community Presbyterian Church. However, As always, the devil is in the details. Number 1, condition number 8 states in part that no additional parking may be established in the village right-of-way, and all existing parking within the right-of-way must be removed based on the following schedule, etc., etc. No mention is made of the right-of-way parking on Fields Road, 6 spaces. This area should be landscaped in conjunction with the paving of the Wee School site. Further, the Pinehurst Police Department must be obliged to strictly enforce this no parking restriction on the right-of-way surrounding the church and not ignore same as they have in the past. Number 2, condition number 9 should also include the following sentence, and I quote, "The church will be required to water and maintain same and must replace any plants that become defective in a timely manner." Number 3, condition number 4 has absolutely nothing to do with the parking problems of the CPC and has not been properly discussed in any public hearing. It was hidden in the CPC's application under the heading Zoning Use Matrix, which in itself requires an explanation. All of the items listed in condition number 4 have a SR number. Section 8.6 Special Requirements, SR, to the table of permitted and special uses and special requirements, PDO page 74, states in part, and I quote, "In any case where a use is listed in the table has a number in the SR column opposite the use, that use must comply with the additional special requirements contained in this section corresponding to the special requirements number," end of quote. Each item listed in the zoning use matrix requires an explanation in detail to the council and the reason a blanket approval, contrary to the normal procedures, is requested. Condition number 4 should be removed from this ordinance at this time entirely. Finally, what is the time frame anticipated to fulfill this ambitious program? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just give a comment on the last one because I have understood that there needs to be fundraising, and so it's not going to happen tomorrow. Okay, if there are no other brief relevant comments, then we, council can take the vote this evening. That'd be number 9.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'm inclined to vote tonight, and
You declined to vote tonight?
inclined.
I'm inclined, okay. Okay,
And I think everything that's being considered, and if I understand it correctly, this is our approval tonight. A lot of things still have to happen. Certainly, the applicant has to have funds to proceed with all of the, or maybe all or part of the plan. I guess my perspective is I do think that what has been presented is would be something that will enhance the community, and I think the applicant has gone the extra distance here to ensure that the culture and character of our community is enhanced. So before we go to vote, I think it was important for me to let everybody know what my objective take on this is as we move forward. Thank you.
thank you, John. Any other comments? Okay, I too think that the applicant has gone above and beyond, trying to make sure that everything was compliant, I guess you should say, with the recommendations of our planning board. They were recommendations, but they took them seriously, and so now here we are. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance 17-05, amending the official Pinehurst zoning map as it pertains to the rezoning of 105 Everett Road, 110 Everett Road, 125 Everett Road, and 35 Kelly Road and approval of the general concept plan. And I move that the proposed amendments to the Pinehurst Development Ordinance are consistent with the goals outlined in the 2010 Comprehensive Long-Range Plan and are considered reasonable and in the best interest of the public as referenced in the memorandum dated April 20th, 2017 from Kevin Reed, Director of Planning and Inspections.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion by Claire Bergeron and a second by John Cashin. Is there any further discussion?
Just maybe one additional point. I think I'm impressed with the the approach taken to the right-of-way. That's something that...
I agree.
That's something that has come up all through these discussions, and I'm a fan of phased approaches. So as other parking areas are developed, there's I think a good plan to remove right-of-way parking that has been in the right-of-way and preclude additional parking there in the future. Thank you.
And I'm very glad that the village has offered to help and be a partner in this. Okay, if there is no additional comment, I'll ask for your vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you very much. That's unanimous, Lauren. Thank you very much, everyone. If there is a mass, thank you. There is a mass exodus, we wouldn't be offended, so we'll give you just a few minutes to exit en masse, as they say. Okay. Okay.
Could have. I've talked to a lot of people, I'm sorry. Yeah. Sure we can, yeah. Yeah, in the next newsletter, you mean?
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
So that will make it a little better for some of us.
I think our next one has already been approved.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I think we'll call the meeting back to order. And Natalie, you have item 10.
I do, thank you. And my feelings are not hurt, by the way, from the mass exodus.
How would your feelings be hurt? I missed the joke.
This exciting presentation I'm getting ready to make.
I'm sorry. Just about everybody did leave. No, we can't have our hurt feelings.
They're not hurt.
Thank you.
What you have in front of you today is the update for how the village is making progress in implementing the plans that we had in our 2018 strategic operating plan. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through everything that's in here. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to review all of that. But we had 18 initiative action plans for 2017, and we had 7 that were carried forward from the previous years for a grand total of 25 different key things that we were trying to focus on to accomplish the goals and objectives that we had. And I wanted to point out a couple of things. As of March 31st, we have completed 8 of those 18 planned actions, so about 44% are completely finished. There are several more that are in progress, and there are a couple that are behind schedule, and I want to point out just a few key ones that are up on the screen here. We have some that have fallen behind, and as you probably read in my memo, several of those are a result of really delays from outside agencies. And those delays in outside agencies have resulted in us not being able to complete some things on time. So as a senior leadership group, we have talked internally about what are some things that we can do differently next year to try to prevent those delays or address those maybe anticipated delays sooner, so that this time next year we can be a little more on schedule. So we've had a couple of situations there, and I think there's probably about 5 or so action plans that have the potential to roll over into next fiscal year. Okay, so I wanted to point that out. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was the land use analysis. So you can see here, we had planned to we had planned initially to do some stuff internally, then we decided to try to contract out some land use inventory work. We did solicit some proposals, and we received one bid, and the vendor was not very responsive, so we're kind of back to the drawing board on that. And we are also looking to explore some traffic analysis tools, and we have begun work on some fiscal financial analysis of land use alternatives. So we are making progress. I would say in the last 30 days we've really kind of picked up the pace on this one, but we are behind as it stands right now. The other thing that I wanted to update you on is our neighborhood sidewalk projects. I don't know if you've seen the sidewalks going in on Spring Lake Road in Village Acres. The contractor was making some speedy work there initially and was moving fairly quickly. We are behind. We had hoped to be further along, and we had hoped to be complete by June 30th. It's most likely going to be in July, weather dependent in terms of how much time the contractor can have out there. So we may fall a little bit past June 30th on that one. The other one I wanted to point out was this Evaluate Solar Energy. So this was a carry forward from last year, and we have sent this project out to bid a couple of times, and we've not received a sufficient number of bids from outside folks on this. So this is one that we might want to look at maybe eliminating from the plan, or considering some other alternative for this one. So we can have that discussion. Finally, here on this page, we have under recreation facilities. We had made plans in the budget to construct do some playground improvements over here in Massey-Wicker, subject to the village obtaining grant funding. That grant funding was not received, so we're proposing to remove that at this time. And if you go to the next page here under the internal workforce focus of our scorecard, everything here in terms of workforce is going along fine. We've made some significant progress in terms of starting our formal succession planning efforts and working through some internal training and development through our TOPS training program. So we've been effective at that. And so you can see here in total, out of the 25 action plans that we have 4 that are behind schedule, 11 in progress, 8 have been completed, and then we've removed 2. Any questions about those?
Any questions from council?
Natalie, regarding the recreation facilities, we talked last time about some improvements at the splash pad and some improvements over at Cannon Park. Mm-hmm. Because of what you just said on the grant funding, are those 2 projects now we can't work on those up through the coming year?
No, this was totally separate.
Totally
this
separate.
Was this was for some improvements to the playground over here beside the splash pad to make it handicapped accessible and expanded. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to that.
Great. So I guess...
Well, let's let Natalie repeat that in the microphone.
Yeah, so what Jeff is saying is those 2 items that you just talked about, we have already put those wheels in motion.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then finally, we track, in addition to just the achievement of all the steps, we have certain metrics that are associated with all of our action plans. And as you can see here, mostly those in red are really as a result of outside organizations that have resulted in some delays. So finally, I want to just touch on this right here. So your areas of focus for the current year that we're in, sometimes it's hard for us in finance and administration to remember what year we're in when we're planning for these 5 years and we're in this year. But we do have 4 areas of focus for 2017. Those are listed there. And in terms of quality in neighborhoods, I just highlight that code compliance efforts have included routine neighborhood patrols, and we have removed those welcome center responsibilities out of the planning staff, and that has proven to be very effective for us in terms of our ability to devote more resources to improving the quality of neighborhoods. And as I talked about, the land use analysis is a little bit behind. The interconnected greenway trails, bike paths, and sidewalks area of focus, again, I mentioned those delays. And then in terms of community engagement, this year, as you know, we had a dedicated communications specialist position. That's proving to serve us very well, too. And our social media engagement is through the roof, and it's amazing to see how many folks are engaging with the village electronically these days. So we're pleased with that. And then, as I mentioned, staff and HR has made a lot of progress in terms of training improvements and succession planning.
Okay, great. Any questions for Natalie? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalie.
You're welcome.
Okay. Number 11, is that Jeff?
Okay, this John's coming up next, and he's got Mike Newman's contract renewal for your consideration.
Yes, we have before you, we come about this time each year. We have the proposed contract for legal services with Van Camp, Meacham, and Newman, PLLC. Basically, this is the same contract as last year. Last year, we made some changes to the terms of the contract. Those terms have seemed to serve us well this year. So no changes to the functional terms, but the just a 2% increase in the cost of the contract over last year. And I'll take any questions you have at this time.
Okay. Same contract, 2% increase. What can we say? Any questions for John? Okay. Let's motion.
I move to authorize the mayor or her designee to execute the contract with Van Camp, Meacham, and Newman, PLLC, for full year 2018.
Second.
We have a motion by John Cashin and a second by Claire Bergeron. Is there any discussion? If not, let's vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Thank you. That's unanimous, Lauren. John, are you here again for the next one? Number 12.
Now, might I recommend we jump to 13 since John's got that one?
Let's jump to 13.
I apologize. I thought that was next on the agenda.
That's okay.
I'll also apologize. I have a bit of a cold, so
Yes, you do. I noticed that.
did not want to miss this opportunity to be before you tonight. But we have before you a resolution to oppose officially Senate Bill 126 and House Bill 522 regarding a proposed modification to sales tax distribution. As we discussed when we presented the budget at length, both of these bills have a similar effect of removing some adjustment factors to our Article 40 sales tax and replacing them with different factors based on our economic tier designation. We're currently a Tier 1, so for this sales tax, we would go from receiving 111% of our per capita distribution down to receiving 0.9% of our per capita distribution, a swing of about 19%. That was the original intent of the law. There is a secondary effect. The state first put out estimates showing the impact of that 19% loss. Secondarily, this will also impact our Article 44. When that was repealed, we were granted some hold harmless municipal reimbursements. Well, they're based partly on Article 40 sales tax. So it's kind of a double whammy. The secondary effect on another piece of legislation is that we'll lose an additional 25% of our hold harmless reimbursements. And that's really the worst part of it for us. We do believe that was perhaps unintended consequence of the law, and we ask that, in this resolution that be addressed as well. Moore County has adopted a similar ordinance, or resolution, I think last week. And we're just asking you to follow suit and put this in the hands of our representatives and our senator.
Exactly. Okay, any questions for John? I was glad to see that Moore County did it. And hopefully all of the communities in Moore County will, because it does mean a serious loss of funding that we have to replace somehow, or we have to cut something out. So, okay, so we're going to consider this resolution. That's number 13.
I got it.
Okay.
I move to approve Resolution 17-15, opposing Senate Bill 126 and House Bill 522 regarding the proposed change in annual distribution of sales and use taxes levied by the state of North Carolina.
Second that.
We have a motion by Claire Berger and a second by John Baldry. Is there any discussion?
I'm just curious, what are the chances, given who's behind the bill? And I know the tier system isn't going away anytime soon.
I spoke with someone with Will Brooks from the League of Municipalities today. You know, he's not given any indication, positive or negative. I believe that Natalie is meeting with representatives of the resort communities and towns across North Carolina tomorrow. So another opportunity to meet with our representatives and senators and talk about it. And hopefully, like I again said, it's on two paths. It can get in through the budget. It can go in as a standalone bill. So either way, you know, we're vulnerable to this. And as Manager Sanborn said, the group of us opposing it is getting smaller and smaller because it's going to affect a small group negatively in a big way. And then that's going to be spread, the positive, to a lot of other communities, but it's a small positive impact for them, but a large negative impact for us. And, you know, again, most of the harm being done by this, the bigger harm is the hold harmless. That's the big piece that's hitting us so dramatically.
Right.
The other side, you know, you can make a debate. Should we or not get the adjustment factors or not? That's a philosophical or political debate. You know, that could be vetted. But it's that back end piece where we were supposed to be held harmless of our losses under Article 44, and now this new law won't accomplish that. It won't accomplish that, and that's the worst part of it. So hopefully we'll get some modifications before it's approved. That's our best hope, I believe.
Okay.
You know, my view is I think it's important for us to convey to our state representatives how important this is
Yes,
to
Jamie is
to our
definitely on
community.
our side. Jamie Bowles.
And also that we align with the county in making a similar, if not identical,
That's what we're doing.
resolution.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, we have had a motion and a second, and we need to vote if there's no more discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Just for one moment, can you, I talked with Will from the league today, and he had talked about a bill, Senate Bill 900 or?
House Bill 900.
House Bill.
Yes.
And I thought you would be a much better person to explain that than I.
Yeah, new bill that I just became aware of today. House Bill 900 is called the Safe Infrastructure and Low Property Tax Act. The sponsor is Stephen Ross out of Burlington and Jason Sane. This act will give some new revenue options to municipalities particularly. And in their talking points about lobbying for this particular bill, it's saying, you know, we've lost several things. You know, some cities have lost privilege license taxes. You know, we didn't charge those here, but some have lost those, some have lost others. There's been an erosion of some of our municipal options for revenues, and for years the League of Municipalities and cities have asked for, give us additional tools in the toolbox. This is what they've came up with, and basically this bill has three new revenue options. You get to pick one of the three if this were approved. And then there's some limits. The three options are a quarter-cent sales tax that's municipal only. So basically for sales inside your municipal limits, a quarter-cent sales tax. A prepared meals tax for meals, for restaurant meals within your city limits. And then a capped occupancy tax, which basically works with your county occupancy tax, and there's some limitations on that, but a capped occupancy tax. You get to pick one of those three, and once you make the option to pick one of those three by your municipality, it is then subject to a voter referendum as well. You would have to pass a voter referendum within your community, and then you'd have that revenue in place. Finally, there's a restriction on the revenues that can only be used for construction of or improvement of public infrastructure. and facilities, or for economic development. The construction and improvement of public infrastructure is pretty broad. We have needs in those areas. We do believe that those funds would apply to us in that way.
Okay.
So that's basically what House Bill 900 is, and they're asking, again, for us to, get behind that versus a property tax as well.
So essentially, we would have to levy an additional quarter-cent on all sales within our village, or meals within our village, or occupancy within our village.
Correct. It's kind of new ground, too, because North Carolina pretty much has consistent sales taxes. There's a few jurisdictions like Mecklenburg, maybe Durham has slightly different tax rates. North Carolina now would become, lots of different tax rates, city to city. So inside Moore County, if Pinehurst enacted this and Southern Pines didn't, or Aberdeen did or didn't, you could see a patchwork of tax rates across the state. And that's going to be kind of new territory for North Carolina.
Might be something for us to talk with our peer communities about, talk with Aberdeen and Southern Pines, if they're thinking of enacting any of these. How quickly do they expect this would be promoted through the House?
I did not have that information.
Okay, I didn't ask Will that either. But since we just heard about it today, we certainly can't make any decision. We just have to try and wait for a little bit more research to come out on it. And perhaps, Natalie, if you find out anything else tomorrow, yeah.
What might be the mechanics of the referendum? Because if I understand, John, what you said, so if I understand what you said, there are three options. One option is picked, and then it goes into a referendum. What are the mechanics for the referendum? How does that work? I'm not familiar with that. Certainly, coming from California, California has initiatives and referendums which are generated by residents, and so. But I'm not familiar with what a referendum and how that might work here.
It'd be just like a bond referendum for schools. It'd be on a general election through the Board of Elections, and go through that same. There's a process in North Carolina, but it'd be in November or May typically.
It'd be in the normal election cycle. Thank you.
Yes.
I did ask Will if it could possibly, and I don't know why I asked him this, if it could possibly be on our November ballot. And he said that would really be up to our Board of Elections if they had the capacity or the ability to move that quickly. And so it's kind of an unknown right now. So.
Yeah, and Jeff just mentioned to me, said, had this bill reached the crossover, I would basically have had to have made that. If we weren't aware of it, that doesn't mean it wasn't out there. I'm not sure if this bill made the crossover. And I've even heard of a few exceptions to that this year. Even for certain bills, they said, well, this one's not subject to crossover. So I'm not sure on this one. We could look into that for you.
We'll just keep our eyes on it. Thank you very much, John. Okay, now we'll move back one item to item 12, and Jeff Batten will come to the microphone.
This item is an opportunity for the village to consider a land swap with Mr. Frank Mazer. It would involve .60 acres of land that the village owns currently that is located behind 45 Community Road, which is the old fire station. It is a part of our public services complex, but it's not used right now. It's actually outside the fence boundary. In exchange, the village would receive 5.88 acres of land that Mr. Mazer owns, and that is located in the vicinity of Bretton Woods and Colonial Pines. And if Lauren, if you could just pull up the VOP .60 acres real quick, just to show people where it's at. This is a little hard to see, but the Frank Mazer also owns the old fire station, which is in about the lower middle of that picture. There you go, thank you. And what is hashed out up there would remain with the village of Pinehurst, and then what is not hashed out would become the .6 acres that we potentially would swap. And if you'll go to the other one real quick for me, thank you. Then the 5.88 acres that he currently owns is located again kind of behind Colonial Pines and Bretton Woods, and sort of sits between that and Trotter Hills. It's currently zoned residential multifamily, so it would be appropriate for other additional multifamily use if he were to retain it. Our recommendation probably would be that we would come back if you are inclined to do the land swap and rezone it to public conservation, which is the same zoning as we have on all of our parks and that type of thing. But it would give us the opportunity to preserve that space for open space or for whatever future councils may desire.
I think what this shows, if we're giving up 6/10 of an acre in Village Place, which is becoming, I think, it's going to be developing in a positive way. Giving up 6/10 of an acre and getting almost 6 acres, I think that's a very positive, it's a very positive indicator that Village Place is going to be valuable real estate, because obviously something's going to happen with that fire station, so that's a good thing. It's a very good
The
thing.
appraisal on that particular 0.6 acres came in around 25,000 because it's landlocked, so it doesn't have access to the road necessarily, although this would include an easement opportunity for them to come off Power Plant Road. The 5.88 acres of tax value is at 161,000, and it's been appraised at a much higher number than that.
Okay, that's fine. Let's see, I think Jack Farrell wants to make a brief, relevant comment.
A little background information may be useful here. And there's three members of the Bretton Woods Homeowners Association in attendance, so if I say something wrong, they said they'll give me the hook. And
Are you their spokesperson?
I was past president of the Homeowners Association until last year, that's correct. A little background, the original intent of that parcel was to be Phase 3 of the Bretton Woods Townhomes Association. Started in the 80s, and Mr. McKenzie started it and completed Phase 1 and Phase 2, and did not complete Phase 3 for whatever reason. That was stopped somewhere in the early 90s. The original plan for Phase 3 was 8 dwellings with 20 townhomes of 1,600 to 2,000 heated square feet each, and but it was not completed. He, as he developed the property, he would transfer the property around each building and the outlying properties at the perimeter where the roads were to the association, and 14 of those were transferred to the association in parcels over a number of years. In fact, one had not been transferred, and I had that transferred last year, as a matter of fact. But the one that is not transferred is the stub you see on the drawing there, which leads from the large part of the parcel down towards
Route 5.
Trotter Drive. So that stub completely contains Wentworth Drive. Wentworth Drive is completely enclosed within that parcel, okay? So as you come up from Diamond Head Drive into Bretton Woods, you pass over the first part of the property, you pass over the road is on property owned by the resort. The second part, as you approach the old swimming pool, it is half of the road is owned by the resort on the swimming pool side, what used to be the swimming pool, and the other half of the road is Bretton Woods property, their common ground, their private road, which leads up further into the parcel in question. As you hit the parcel in question on Cabot Drive, then part of Cabot Drive is then on Mr. Macer's property and continues around the corner, and all of Wentworth is in fact on Mr. Macer's property. The association, from my brief discussions with them, would be thrilled to have that designated as preservation and become sign of, a community asset. However, the issue here is that if the village were to take that property, it would suddenly acquire 440 feet of a private road, and in fact would need an easement over the other private roads, and that easement, along with Wentworth, would incorporate over 60% of the roads that are in Bretton Woods. So there's about 3,300 feet of road in Bretton Woods, and the village would either have easements over it or own a good percentage of it. Now, last March, I contacted Jeff about seeing if the village would be interested in assuming the responsibility for the roads in Bretton Woods. And he sent out McGill Associates, and they did an assessment of all the roads, both where the property lines are, the road conditions and so forth within Bretton Woods, and came back with an excellent report dated in May. One of the the report indicated a lot of the roads are substandard a little bit, and in fact, if you wanted to claim all 60 feet of right-of-way, some of the right-of-way would be in people's bedrooms. So there would be some issues on the roads, assuming the roads. However, we're not against it, let me put it that way. So the issue is how to resolve the road situation if you were in fact to assume this parcel. An ideal scenario might be, in order for the village assuming responsibility for Wentworth Circle and also having easements to that property for public use, would be to take responsibility for all the roads in Bretton Woods and do some minimum amount of maintenance that it may or may not require to bring it up to standards, reasonable standards. I mean, it can't be as good as the rest of the roads in Pinehurst, I'm sure of that.
I think generally...
That's the big issue here, as far as Bretton Woods is concerned, that what's going to happen with the roads. That stub, in reality, should have been transferred to Bretton Woods as part of the common area. And in fact, was not transferred. There was a number of things that, after Mr. McKenzie stopped the development, that didn't get completed. That's one of that didn't get completed. But because it didn't get completed, and last year when we completed the road survey, the question was, are all the the owners of the roads willing to go forward with the next step in assessing whether or not the village can take these roads? I contacted the resort, they were interested in it. Bretton Woods was interested in it, but Mr. Macer was apparently not interested in it. So that's one of the reasons we're the situation we have right now.
So if you could just briefly, what harm would come to Bretton Woods if we were to take this parcel and keep it as open space?
No harm would come to Bretton Woods, except that the resolution of easements and use of the roads over private roads and your ownership of, of that particular part of the road would have to be resolved.
If I may.
Yeah, sure.
Jeff?
Relative to the easements, we believe actually the easement already exists for access to that property. However, we would agree that utilization of, if and when this ever became a, let's just say a small park or something, neighborhood private or passive park, I should say, we would agree that probably access over the private roads, although it is likely the easement is there, is probably not the best solution. We have had some very informal conversations with Pinehurst Incorporated about accessing across their property, which would be a more direct link and would remove that dual purpose between public use of private road. The parcel that is up there in the middle at 1704, which was the old pool site, is owned by Pinehurst as well as is the entrance drive coming off of Diamond Head. So I think if at some point in time, if that were ever to become to fruition where we wanted to try to do a little passive area back there, that would be, I think the staff's suggestion is that we work through Pinehurst Resort for that easement across that lot that's designated as 1704, which they have currently indicated they'd be willing to work with us on.
Okay, so what has happened with the pool?
It's been filled in.
Okay, so Bretton Woods...
We're in negotiation to potentially take it over, but it just didn't work out.
Right, yeah, I understand.
But that doesn't solve the situation of if you take the parcel, then you still own 440 feet of the roads that are currently being used as private roads servicing Bretton Woods and all those townhomes in the back. And what would be the resolution as far as maintaining that road? And what responsibility would you take towards the partial easements you would have over the private roads? It's just something that has to be worked out. I'm not giving you an answer or demanding anything in particular. I think it's just a consideration in this whole land swap.
Well, and your concern that maybe we would want to take over Bretton Woods roads, we generally take over roads that have been brought up to our standards, and then we maintain them. So.
Okay, no, I understand that, and we fully appreciate that. We're not a Cotswold, okay? Bretton Woods is not a Cotswold. And so I just want to make sure that you understand that to bring the roads up to a standard would require a potential investment that the Bretton Woods community is unlikely to want to take on. One other issue that we brought up early on, I think, Jeff, was that we would not want the stub road, which goes towards Trotter Drive, opened. So that would create a pass-through to Bretton Woods to Diamond Head. That would be highly objectionable.
Okay, but the Bretton Woods Homeowners Association is now maintaining their roads.
Yes, correct. We maintain the private roads along with the roads that belong to Mr. Mazer and the resort.
Okay. Jeff, did you have any more comments?
No, with regards to Wentworth Circle, our thought process, at least from a staff level, would be that we would just grant the easement across the property, and they would just continue to maintain it as they have been doing and using it as they have been doing as well. Relative to the question mark about stubbing out to Trotter Drive, the properties don't line up exactly to make that happen. However, the county does own that corner lot that's got two stakes on it just to the right of Wentworth.
Oh, well site. Right?
Yes, no well site, and it's owned by the county. I don't know if they're intending to put that back in service or what, but it does not line up where Trotter Drive could actually connect to Wentworth as it stands today. So.
Yeah, from Bretton Woods, now correct me if I'm wrong, Sylvia, but from Bretton Woods' perspective, this is a fantastic opportunity to have a nice piece of property
Open space.
in community use, opened up for community use, and at the same time, Bretton Woods can gain some benefit by having maybe its roads at least partially upgraded, and along with because of the additional traffic that will use what is now the private entrance into Bretton Woods and Colonial Pines.
Okay, I think this merits a little bit more
Yes,
discussion,
obviously.
and we'll have to have Jeff give us a little bit more research on this, but I'm happy to know that there are some other consequences. It's not just try this for this, so there are some issues
I would urge
there.
you to try to stay in touch with the Bretton Woods Homeowners Association as well as the Colonial Pines Homeowners Association as this proceeds and gather their input. Is that correct?
That's very correct, and thank you.
Okay, I think we will make sure Jeff gets some names and numbers before we leave tonight. Okay, thank you, Jack. Okay, let's see. I believe, Claire, you said that you needed to leave by 6? Hey, we're at other business. We have one.
Do we have to do number 12? Vote on number 12?
I don't think that we have we don't have a motion for it, so it's not something we're doing tonight, is it?
Which one?
Number 12? Oh, the land swap.
Yeah, number 12.
We need to do it tonight? Okay, we're going to wait on number 12. So now we're into other business, and I do have one other piece of other business, and that is on May 9th, we met and we looked at the manager's contract, and we made some revisions to it, and they were in the area of salary and in the area of severance. So we agreed in a closed session, and now we need to take a vote in public. So if somebody would make a motion that the contract changes that we made on May 9th be approved.
I make a motion to approve the contract that we agreed upon on May 9th for our manager.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by John Cashin and a second by Claire Bergren. And is there any discussion? If not, let's vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Claire, you may be excused. I know you have some important functions, child functions to go to this evening. We appreciate you being a very, very loyal. You work, you have a family, and you come to meetings. You are awesome in my book. So, yes. There you go. All the ladies in the audience applaud you. Okay, so next we have, thank you, Claire. Next we have, do any other council members have any other business?
No, ma'am.
Okay, John? Okay, then we'll go to comments from attendees. Okay, yes, Mr. Taylor. Yes, John Taylor.
Apologize that I didn't think of this earlier. I would request under the heading generally of good governance, that the council think about the action you took at the beginning of the meeting tonight to assume that the vote of someone not present is in favor.
Mr. Taylor, that is according to the general statutes. We didn't make that up.
According to whose general statutes?
The North Carolina general statutes. We don't make things up like that. We have to go according to what the general statutes say. So we researched it today, and that is the way it is.
So hypothetically, while most decisions of the council have tended to be unanimous, if you were ever in a situation where two of you present were opposed and two of you were in favor, whatever the issue was, the ayes would have it.
Well, we would have to...
A practical matter.
At the beginning of the meeting, we have to decide whether we're going to excuse somebody's absence or not excuse. My recommendation would be, so that nobody would suffer, I mean, we don't want to penalize anyone who has come here with a proposal or whatever, that we always say that, or this would be my recommendation, that we always say that the absence is not excused. So the absent council members' vote will always be in the affirmative. So that is just giving the public, whoever's bringing us an issue, that's giving them, I think it's fair play for them. So we need not to excuse, so that it's counterintuitive, totally counterintuitive.
It's impossible to predict which way that's going to fall. So it's
This is
not
true.
biased in any way. If you have no alternative, then I will let you go home. But
Our alternative is to make sure that every member attends every meeting unless it is absolutely essential that they miss.
are members allowed to attend via teleconference or anything, or must they be here in person?
I think we used to do that, or you used to do that when Steve Smith was mayor. I think it turned out very limited.
I understand extenuating circumstances, but still permissible when necessary.
Well, I mean, yeah, we could consider that. But thank you for mentioning that. It's totally counterintuitive, but that's welcome to the world of local government.
Introduces an element of randomness to decision-making.
Yes, it
which
does,
is not
an
optimal.
absolute. That's why I urge all council members to attend meetings, and this schedule comes first, unless there's something. Yes, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any other comments from attendees? Yes, sir, Judy, yes, ma'am, Judy Davis.
Question in regard to the opposition on those two, the Senate bill and the House bills. Are you planning to do some type of get out the letter writing campaign to citizens? I certainly would advocate this Pinehurst Civic Group helping you with that, because I think that even though it seems like a done deal, it's always good to get your voice out there, and this is an important resource for us.
Well, the issue is we can only influence one vote, and that's our representative who could influence other votes. But Jamie knows very well that we do not, Moore County doesn't want to lose that money. None of the municipalities want to lose that money. So I don't know. I mean, I appreciate the offer of a letter writing campaign, but I'm not sure that would be.
I mean, if he goes in with a stack of letters versus no letters, I mean, your resolution is really important.
We certainly could provide anybody who wants a copy of the resolution.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
The opportunity
Okay.
to take that and pass along a letter with
Right.
that attached.
And then should I work with John Fry on smoothing out the language for that.
Who developed the resolution? Oh, we stole it from Moore County, so
Okay.
John would be
Yeah.
happy to do that.
I think if
Thank
you just
Judy.
read the resolution,
Yeah.
you could craft a letter that supports it pretty easy.
Yeah,
I'm sure
but
you
I'd just like
can.
to run it by.
Thank you so much, Judy. That's a very good thing to do. And you have a very nice network of people you can, okay, appreciate that, right. Okay, any other comments from attendees? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Sylvia Brown.
Her name is Sylvia Brown. Till you get to a mic, it's going to sound like,
So you can all hear. But basically, this land swap that we talked about, a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for us. And yet this whole road situation is really important to us as
right,
well.
right, yes.
So that if you're going to take time to consider it, that makes us happy as well.
And I think we should, because this is information that we really didn't consider until this evening.
So it's like, but it sounds like a wonderful thing. I know there are people now that are walking their dogs back up in there, but whatever it is,
How would you feel about a little dog park in there?
I think it would be sweet. I think
Okay.
people would appreciate it very
Okay.
much.
All
And,
right.
so in any way that we can be involved, we would appreciate that.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. And Jeff will we'll keep in touch with you, and thank you very much for being here tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from attendees? I shall entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the regular meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, just three of us. Okay, thank you very much, we are adjourned.